What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me again on my video here for the month of November for my Patreon video. I'm excited to bring this painting to you guys. It was a really cool process for me. Very exciting to be creating something that is officially licensed by Prime Video UK, and that was an awesome experience for me. The funny thing was I started the painting kind of prior to the agreement that we settled on. But I kind of convinced them to work with the painting that I was already working on instead of starting something new. So that worked out well for me, and I think it worked out well for them in the end, because our original agreement was for a single portrait or a single person, and so obviously this piece is containing a lot more than that. I've wanted to do a movie style poster around the Wheel of Time for quite a while, and had started one probably over a year ago now, that I kind of ended up abandoning just in the process of everything else that I had going on. And so was happy to bring this one to fruition and see it completed. You can see I'm in my little closet sound studio here at my house. My family's downstairs, they're all watching TV and doing things and making noise, and so I'm just trying to fit this in and make this work. Hopefully it's not too weird for you guys, but this is where I am. This is what we're doing. So I think I want to do something a little bit different today. If you haven't watched The Wheel of Time yet, I apologize. This is going to be a little bit spoilery, probably, but I wanted to do a little bit of kind of a miniature review, just giving some of my thoughts on the first 3 episodes, which released on the 19th on Friday on Amazon Prime. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, feel free to turn this off or turn the audio down and just scrub through and check out the video of the piece coming together if you like. I won't be offended. Whatever you want to do, it's up to you. But basically, so I enjoyed the Wheel of Time TV show so far, the first 3 episodes. I didn't hate it. I was a little bit put off by a few of the decisions that they made. For people who aren't fans of the book, previously not having any connection to the characters, I think that probably the TV show will come off a little bit easier, or they may enjoy it more. There were parts that I really liked, and some parts that I found challenging. I think the things that stuck out to me the most as a negative was some of the decisions that they made in the writing around specifically the 2 rivers, which is the little village that the main characters of the story live in at the outset of the story. So the 2 rivers, I feel, in the books is presented with this very rich and special culture that seems to be very, pretty much quite unified. There's the oddball kind of group of people that are difficult, that that are sort of, I guess, difficult to deal with, and so everybody knows about the Coplans and the Congers. They're just difficult people. And of course there's Will Alcine, who is like this guy that the boys kind of struggle with. But anyways, I just was put off by the way that they depicted Matt's parents and his family dynamic. So I'm going to talk about what I felt was negative about the depiction of the 2 rivers people, and then I'm going to talk about the reasons why they did it, and how I understand from a writing perspective in adapting this to the medium of television that they went that route. So I took an exception to the way that they depicted specifically Abel Cawthon and Natty Cawthon. And the problem for me is that Abel is, in the books, a really close friend with Tam Althor, who is Rand Althor's father. And they are both members of the village council, which is the equivalent of the women's circle and so, and it's interesting. So in the Two Rivers, there's sort of an equality of importance between men and women. They have different roles, but they're equally as important as each other. And they're both involved in sort of politics within the village and certain responsibilities. And it just seemed, the depiction to me of the Two Rivers felt very one-sided. They showed the women's circle, they showed the ceremony for Egwene, and they seemed very unified. And then the men seemed kind of scattered and not really unified. And I sort of blame that on pacing and writing. And then this is the hard part that I'll get into, but I felt that they sort of short-handed, I guess, the village council. And Abel Cawthon was this like really messed up guy, and I always pictured him as being, he's said to be like one of the best archers, and he's really excellent with a bow staff, and is really swift-minded and a very good trader for like horse trader. And I kind of just got the depiction of him as being like this deadbeat, lecherous drunk, which was really unfortunate and sad. And then his wife Natty was also like, she looked like she was strung out on drugs and like just a mess. So that was disappointing, and it wasn't just those two characters. Like the dynamic between those two characters, I didn't like that, the way they set that up, and I felt like it didn't feel like an accurate depiction of the culture of the Two Rivers. And I think that it kind of extended even to like Matt stealing a bracelet from one of the townsfolk in the town there. And I just don't, like, I know Matt's like this goofy guy who likes to do things in the book. He's kind of getting in trouble, releasing badgers in the town square and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I always got the impression that it was out of this sort of crazy zeal for life and not really thinking about what he's doing before he does it, not necessarily a malicious intent of stealing. And I think that he was stealing stuff to get money to provide some opportunities for his sisters that his parents weren't providing for him. So that they used his parents' dysfunction to try to set up an opportunity for him to seem sympathetic and maybe to like build empathy towards him as a character. And there might be payoff for that later on down the road in relationship to his sisters. Maybe he makes amends with his family. We don't know yet that's gonna look like, how they're gonna work with that. But there's a lot of themes in the books about the Two Rivers being of the old blood and strong, and the people there are stubborn and strong and rebuilding right after the Trolloc attack and working together and very unified, and all these sort of pieces coming, like working together. And I just didn't feel that from the way they depicted the Two Rivers. That was one of my biggest struggles in the first few episodes, was how they chose to do that. But again, so I think I know why they chose to do that. I understand why they're making decisions like having Perrin have a wife and then have that tragedy that happened. I feel like the first episodes could have been extended into 2 episodes and had one first episode kind of getting to know everybody and getting to know those relationships and connections, and the second episode being sort of the attack at Winter Night. It would have allowed for a little bit more viewer buy-in into the tragedies that happened. Maybe they could have established a little bit more of the connection between Perrin and his wife. It felt very abrupt and not really solidified. And so that's just, I think, a byproduct of trying to adapt this huge book series to TV show, which is really difficult. So kind of unfortunate that just some of those things, those decisions would have been extremely difficult for the writers to make. And I'm not saying that I could have done it better. I'm just saying I think it didn't really work for me, those pieces. And it wasn't just me. So my wife watched the show with me, and she's never read the books, and she felt that she had a hard time buying into the emotions in the first episode, the dynamics between Rand and Egwene, what was going on with Perrin and his wife, Tam and Rand, and like him getting injured and almost dying. All those pieces, she just was like, she said, I felt like it was like I was being forced to try to empathize with these people that I know nothing about. And it was kind of like jarring for her. So I think that's important, right? Someone who, she likes good stories, she likes stories about community and about relationships and stuff. So those pieces of things were kind of falling flat for her. So it's important to honestly reflect on that. And then, I asked her, without soliciting a response, I just said, what did you think about the culture of the Two Rivers? Like how it was depicted, what did you get from that? And she was like, well, she said, I think the women were really cool. And I felt they were very strong and really cool. And she said, the men suck. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of glad that you said that, because that's how I felt they depicted the Two Rivers. She said, the innkeeper was nice, and Tam seemed kind of cool and noble and stuff, but all the other guys seemed like drunkards and not great. And so that was unfortunate, because that's not how I imagined the Two Rivers people. I imagined the Two Rivers being this sort of idyllic space or place with people with like strong backbone and rich culture and tradition and all those pieces behind them. She did like that they showed them kind of like celebrating a little bit when the dance started before murder happened. I just think that they could have done more, and maybe they'll get a chance to if they keep it sort of in a similar structure to the books, and Perrin ends up, doing what he does. Maybe we'll see more, and they'll flesh some of that stuff out a little bit more. But that honestly was like the biggest concern for me from the first. I really thought episode 2 and 3 were picking up a little better. The character, the actor performances of the characters, I felt were starting to get really tight. I like the casting. I think they're doing a good job with the characters. I quite like Lan and Moraine and Rand a lot. And I do like Perrin too, and I understand what they're doing with him, and he's so internal in the books that I think it would be extremely difficult for a viewer to get what's going on with him without having something like what happened to him to be able to create this, air of hesitancy and fear and anxiety around stuff and sadness that he is carrying. So I don't know. They maybe could have done that differently. It was extreme, but and also an extreme change from the book. And I know some people are struggling with that there's this massive shift in a couple of these characters and some of the things that have happened to them, and it does feel like large changes. But we have to keep in mind that I think they're making these changes in a purposeful way to help convey stuff down the road. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking outside. But yeah, so I'm really curious if you've watched the show and then you watch this video, if you want to would make some comments. I'd be really interested to hear what you say, either in the Patreon comment feed or on the YouTube comments. I'd love to chat with you guys about this. I'm really curious to see what you all think, know what you all think about it. I haven't gone and watched any reviews or anything yet. I kind of want to keep my own thoughts uninfluenced by other people's opinions right now, because I'm trying to process it. It's one of those things where maybe you all feel the same way. We've been waiting so long for this thing, and now it's out, and I'm right now I'm not super sure how I feel about it. There's parts that I love and parts that I struggle with, which I guess I kind of expected that to be the case. But I am glad to see it coming out, and I'm glad to see it happening. and it's fun that my family, you know, seems to be interested in it and enjoying it, so that's exciting. Anyways, this has gone a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but let me know what you think in the comments, and I hope you like the piece. It is available for purchase as a limited edition print on my Etsy store. I'll put a link in the YouTube description. You guys know how to get there. Anyways, I will leave it at that, and I'll check in with you guys a little later. Alright, bye.